Fix my car right now, or I'll ruin you before the night is over.
Try it, miss. Let's see who ruins who first.
The air inside Auto Atelier Gangnam smelled like expensive motor oil, roasted espresso, and pure, unfiltered power. Chloe stepped into the bay, her designer stilettos clicking against the pristine, polished concrete. She adjusted her ring light gimbal, flashing a glossy, camera-ready smile for her 30,000 live viewers. "Guys, you won't believe what this cheap rental company tried to pull," she purred into the lens, pitching her voice for maximum drama. "They gave me a defective Ferrari F8. But don't worry, your girl is about to put this low-end shop in its place." She swept her gaze over the bay until it landed on a pair of wide shoulders working under the raised chassis of a matte black Huracan. He wore a dark gray, oil-stained mechanic's jumpsuit, with the sleeves pushed high up his forearms, exposing corded muscle and a faint trace of grease along his wrist. "Hey, you!" Chloe snapped, tapping her long acrylics against the Ferrari's hood. "Drop whatever trash car you're working on and fix this sensor right now. I'm on a schedule, and I'm not paying a single one for your company's incompetent mistakes." The man under the lift didn't flinch. Slowly, deliberately, he wiped a pair of heavy, grease-dusted hands with a dark shop rag and stepped out into the light. Chloe's breath hitched, just for a split second. He was infuriatingly handsome. Sharp, chiseled Korean features, heavy-lidded dark eyes, and messy black hair falling slightly over his forehead. A smudge of dark grease ran along his strong jawline, only highlighting the rough, undeniable heat radiating off him. He didn't look like a guy who took orders. He looked like the kind of man who owned everything he laid his eyes on. "You're loud," he said. His voice was a low, gravelly baritone that cut through the humming garage fans like a physical touch. "Excuse me," Chloe blinked, adjusting her camera to catch his face. "Do you know who I am? I have 30,000 people watching this stream right now. Fix my car before I get you fired." Leo Kang didn't give her a second glance. He walked past her, his broad chest brushing so close to her shoulder that she caught the intense mix of his scent: raw iron, engine heat, and subtle, high-end cedarwood cologne. It sent an unexpected, sharp shiver straight down her spine. He bent over the open engine bay of her rental, his wide back flexing under the fabric of his jumpsuit. With one hand, he reached into the tight harness, his long fingers working with terrifying precision. Click. In less than 90 seconds, he leaned back, tossing a small, intentionally clipped wire connector onto the hood. "Sensor wasn't defective," Leo said coolly, looking down at her. "You unclipped the main harness to trigger a warning light on your dash, a cheap trick for content." Chloe's face flashed red. She quickly glanced at her phone, then sneered to cover her panic. "Whatever, you plugged it back in, so do your job." She dug into her designer purse, slapped 3 crumpled 10,001 notes onto his chest, and let them flutter to the oil-slicked floor. "There's a tip. Go buy yourself a real life." Leo didn't look down at the money. His dark gaze locked onto hers, holding her pinned under an intense, suffocating weight that made her chest tighten. Then, her phone went completely wild. The chat was scrolling so fast the text blurred. "Wait a minute. Is that Kang Min-hyuk? OMG guys, that's not a mechanic. That's the heir to Apex Group. He literally owns the rental company, the garage, and the whole block." "Chloe, what did you just do? BD just keskus." Chloe's heart plummeted into her stomach. What?" Leo pulled a sleek, custom black smartphone from his back pocket. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't even look angry. He just tapped the screen 3 times. Across the bay, the Ferrari's lights flashed twice. The engine cut off with a hollow click, and the electronic door locks engaged with a heavy thud. "Breach of contract," Leo said softly, stepping closer until he was standing directly over her. The height difference was overwhelming. He leaned in, his warm, rough breath brushing against the shell of her ear, sending a liquid heat curling through her lower stomach despite her sheer panic. "Vehicle tampering, defamation, contract terminated effective immediately. You can't just lock me out." She stuttered, her arrogance completely shattered. "I'm 5 miles from the main road. I'm wearing 6-inch heels." Leo pulled the rag from his pocket, casually wiping the back of his neck as his eyes dragged down her body, slow and unapologetic, before returning to her eyes. "Then I suggest you start walking," he murmured, his deep voice carrying straight into her phone's microphone for 35,000 viewers to hear. He turned his back on her, walking toward the glass-walled executive office at the back of the bay, leaving her stranded, mortified, and breathless on the concrete. The heavy glass doors of the Gangnam Gala opened to a world of blinding crystal chandeliers, clinking champagne flutes, and the quiet power of Seoul's elite. Chloe smoothed down her backless crimson silk dress, her knuckles white around her designer clutch. The viral clip from Auto Atelier had wrecked her online footprint within 48 hours. Her sponsorships were vanishing, her stream numbers were in freefall, and her talent agency was threatening a massive breach of contract lawsuit. There was only one man who could sign off on dropping the legal charges and lifting the blacklist. She spotted him across the VIP lounge, and her breath hitched in her throat. Kang Min-hyuk no longer looked like the grease-dusted mechanic from the garage bay. Clad in a bespoke charcoal Italian suit that framed his broad shoulders and narrow waist, he radiated an untouchable, lethal elegance. His dark hair was styled back, revealing the sharp, aristocratic cut of his jaw. He was surrounded by older board members, holding a glass of neat scotch, completely commanding the room without uttering a single loud word. Taking a steadying breath, Chloe stepped into his space, her heels sounding a slow rhythm against the marble floor. "Mr. Kang," she spoke up, her voice smooth, forcing every ounce of her remaining confidence forward. Min-hyuk didn't turn immediately. He finished his sentence to the executive beside him, took a slow sip of his drink, and then turned his heavy dark gaze onto her. His eyes dragged down the fitted silk of her dress, slow and calculating, before rising to lock onto her eyes. "You're out of your depth here, Miss Park," he said quietly, his low baritone cutting straight through the surrounding classical music. "I need 5 minutes," she murmured, stepping closer, close enough that the subtle scent of rich leather and cedarwood wrapped around her again, making her pulse hammer against her ribs. "You ruined my reputation in front of 40,000 people." A faint, dangerous smirk touched the corner of his lips. "You ruined it yourself. I simply enforced the terms of my contract." "Then let me fix it," she pleaded softly, her eyes flashing with a mix of desperation and defiance. "Name your terms. What does the CEO of Apex Automotive want from someone who owes him millions in damages?" Min-hyuk leaned in, his shadow enveloping her completely. He lowered his head until his lips brushed against the curve of her ear, his warm breath sending a sharp spike of electricity straight down her spine. "My boardroom wants to sue you into bankruptcy," he whispered, his voice dark, velvet, and dripping with absolute control. "But I prefer a more hands-on settlement. You want your debt cleared? You start tomorrow morning at my private garage, 8 o'clock sharp, and this time you leave the cameras and the heels at home." The neon clock on the wall of Auto Atelier clicked to 8:05 a.m. when Chloe pushed open the heavy side door. She wasn't wearing her signature designer heels or backless silk. Instead, she had thrown on fitted dark jeans, plain white sneakers, and an oversized black hoodie. Her phone remained turned off in her bag, completely stripped of her usual digital shield. Leo was already there. He was standing over the open bay of a silver classic Porsche 911, dressed in a black fitted tee that stretched taut across his broad chest and shoulders. The sleeves were rolled up, showing off the sleek, dark lines of an expensive watch contrasted against grease-stained forearms. He didn't turn around when the door slammed, he just reached for a wrench from his tool cabinet without breaking his rhythm. "You're 5 minutes late, Miss Park," his gravelly baritone echoed through the quiet garage. "I had to walk 3 blocks because your private security wouldn't let my ride through the front gate," Chloe replied, stepping onto the polished concrete floor, her heart instantly kicking into a faster beat at the sight of him. "What am I supposed to be doing here, cleaning floors?" Leo finally turned, leaning back against the fender of the classic car. His dark, heavy-lidded eyes dragged down her dress-down outfit, taking in every inch of her exposed neck and fitted jeans with a slow, deliberate heat that made her skin prickle. "You're going to assist me," he said coolly, holding out a dark shop rag toward her. "Hand me tools, hold the light, and learn what actual hard work feels like." For the next 4 hours, the atmosphere inside the closed bay grew thick with unspoken tension. Every time Chloe leaned into the engine compartment to hold the LED work light, Leo moved in right behind her. His broad chest repeatedly brushed against her back, his warm, engine and cedarwood scent enveloping her senses until her breathing turned shallow. Whenever their fingers brushed over cold steel tools, electric sparks seemed to shoot straight up her arm, making her catch her breath in the quiet space. "You're shaking," Leo murmured late into the afternoon, his voice dropping low as he reached over her shoulder to grab a torque wrench, trapping her completely between his frame and the car body. "I'm not," Chloe lied, her chest heaving as she turned her head, her lips landing mere inches from his sharp jawline. Leo didn't pull back. He slowly lowered his head, his dark eyes locking onto her mouth, his hot breath brushing against her lips as the silence between them stretched paper-thin. The tension in the garage shattered when the quiet was broken by the sharp, metallic click of the side door opening. A high-ranking executive from a rival automotive group stepped into the bay, accompanied by a notorious entertainment reporter, cameras flashing without permission. The rival sneered, holding up a file containing tampered telemetry data from the Ferrari, preparing to run a coordinated smear campaign that would destroy both Apex Group's upcoming hypercar launch and ruin Chloe permanently. "I see the mighty Kang Min-hyuk is busy with his little pet project," the executive mocked, signaling the camera to focus on Chloe. "Let's see how the press handles the CEO covering up his own security negligence." Before Chloe could panic, Leo moved with terrifying speed. He stepped entirely in front of her, his tall, broad frame shielding her completely from the flashing lenses. The raw, deadly coldness in his dark eyes instantly silenced the entire room. "You chose the wrong shop," Leo said, his voice dropping into an icy, lethal register that made the floorboards seem to vibrate. Without breaking eye contact, Leo pulled up his custom terminal on the garage touchscreen interface. With a single calculated sequence, he uploaded the full, unedited internal garage telemetry alongside high-definition audio logs straight to Apex Group's legal network and every major press syndicate in Seoul. The data proved absolute corporate espionage and deliberate extortion by the rival company. Within 90 seconds, the executive's phone began ringing uncontrollably with frantic calls from his own board of directors. Panic washed over his face as he realized his career was over in real time. "Get out of my bay," Leo commanded softly, "before I hand over the criminal charges personally." The rival and reporter scrambled backward, exiting the garage into the night as the heavy steel doors slid shut behind them, locking out the entire outside world with an absolute echoing thud. Silence descended over the bay, thick and dangerous. Chloe stood frozen against the Porsche, her heart pounding against her ribs as she looked at him. You saved me. You could have let them drag my name through the dirt." Leo didn't answer right away. He turned slowly, discarding his tools onto the steel table with a heavy clang. He walked toward her, every deliberate step full of predatory grace, closing the distance until there was no air left between them. He pinned her against the fender of the car, his massive hands planting on the cold metal on either side of her waist, trapping her completely under his heat. "I don't let anyone wreck what belongs in my bay," he growled low in his throat. Staring into her beautiful eyes, he leads her away from the cold mechanic's bay, up into his private, warm living quarters above Auto Atelier. Surrounded by ambient lighting and quiet luxury, the heavy walls he built around himself finally come down. Leo reveals that he didn't just notice her during the gala or the first interaction, he had been watching her live streams long before her downfall. While the rest of the world saw a glamorous, high-society influencer, he saw a girl carrying an impossible weight, trying to prove her worth to people who didn't care. He brought her to the garage not to punish her or control her, but to tear down the fake digital shield she hid behind so she could see herself the way he always saw her, raw, brilliant, and unbreakable. His confession surprised her, as she never thought someone would actually see her for who she was. As her eyes filled with tears, he moved closer to her. "You wanted content, Miss Park," Leo whispered, his lips brushing against hers, sending an intense, liquid shockwave straight down her spine. "Show's over. Now you pay the rest of your debt to me." He pulled her up into his chest, closing his mouth over hers in a deep, possessive kiss that consumed every ounce of her control, sealing her fate under the dim neon lights of the private garage as they made their commitment official.